I'm excited to be headed to San Diego on November 4th and 5th this year for the ERE Recruiting Innovation Summit. This event always brings together the best in talent acquisition, recruiting leaders, HR executives, HR tech, people that are really shaping where this industry is going. It's more than just a pitch fest. I mean, this is where actual learning comes in. They've been around for 30 years. It's a great event in San Diego in November. And you're going to have some excellent speakers, demonstrations. We have pin.com there. Joel Loudry will be there. You'll have the team from ERE there, Jim Stroud. These are people that have been shaping the industry this decade and really where it's going in terms of AI and the blend with AI and recruiters and all that good stuff. I went in April this year and it was a transformative experience. We had a great time with Digital Recruiter booth and speaking and just people learning about automation and content and AI tools. It was just really cool event. So I'll be an official content partner representing Digital Recruiter. So we're going to be capturing videos, doing man on the street, interviewing the speakers, the sponsors, really getting a pulse on the action. So if you're in talent acquisition, if you're agency recruiter, this is the place to be on November 4th and 5th. Go meet your peers in person, learn from them. There's virtual tickets, there's in-person events. It's an awesome time. And so please enjoy our ERE podcast series so it gets you a glimpse of all the people that are going to be at ERE, and we'd love to see you there. All right, welcome to another installment of the ERE Recruiting Innovation Summit podcast series. I'm your host, Clark Wilcox, founder of Digital Recruiter, and I am joined today by my new friend, Christine Nichlos, founder and CEO of People Science and HireGate. Christine, thank you for being here.
Hey, Clark. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I thought about giving a breakdown, what you do, what you cover, but as we were talking offline, I was like, heck no, you're going to do it because there's a lot you cover. There's a lot you guys do at a very high level, and you've been doing it for a long time. So we might just kind of maybe giving like the brief kind of intro of like People Science and HireGate.
Yeah, we have been doing this a long time. I'm not going to use age.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Timeless.
Yeah. Timeless. No, I opened the company in 97 and really everything that we do is around talent acquisition.
Yeah.
And we've been around a long time. We've got some pretty impressive labels. We had the privilege of working with some of the best companies in the world, I think. So when I started the company, the idea really was that we were founded on consulting, advisory. How do you build a stealth machine to execute talent acquisition in 1997, which sometimes I think it was easier then. Right.
Yeah.
At a time when people still had a lot of paper hanging around and, it wasn't their talent acquisition wasn't a thing. It was really recruiting. And we very quickly became what was in 2004 then labeled RPO because we would design these solutions for how to acquire talent. So, for example, I think our first customer was Lucent Technologies. They needed to hire 380 switch technicians to climb the poles and fix the switches to get a $9 billion deal, which in 97, you can imagine, from AT&T. So we put together a plan for them, handed it off. They came back and said, we need you to execute. It's not something we know. So today, that's our largest revenue maker is the RPO side. In order to execute over all these years, because we're still a small player in the space, we're very particular. In fact, we're the guy who gets the call a lot of times when an RPO isn't working out to come in and advise on how they can get better. And we'll make recommendations out as well. But mid-market's a sweet spot for us, just so we have an understanding there now. But we created a software starting, with Excel spreadsheets that migrated into, what was it, Access, I guess, at the time, then SQL. We had all these servers. Then we moved into a web-based product. So as we're recruiting, we're augmenting, right? When the ATS came into the market at about, I'm going to say Taleo was probably like the most pronounced, although Resumix was out there, right? So as the ATS world was taking off, we found ourselves augmenting. And today we've augmented over 40 different applicant tracking systems. So next week in San Diego, what I'm going to be talking about is our software, HireGate. We were asked by two of our larger clients to bring HireGate to market because with one client, we're handling 9,000 hires. They're making 25,000 hires a year. With HireGate, they have a clear line of sight. And with that particular client, we're augmenting Workday. Another client that we're working with right now, we're integrating SAP into HireGate and SAP, which we've been augmenting SuccessFactors. Oh gosh, I'm going to say for about 12 years now, which, is another situation where we're doing maybe 20,000 hires. They're doing maybe 100,000 hires across the board in that particular organization. So you're looking at an incredible amount of volume. With our software, they have a clear line of sight that they're not getting with just the ATS. So if you put me on the spot, we also do contract recruiting that includes our software. So we call it Advanced Recruiter Services. So Talent Advisory, founded on that. It's a part of everything we do. We're kind of nosy as an RPO. We don't do butts and seats. We do how do you get better. In fact, we've named a third generation RPO for that reason. There we go with the age again. The fact is we've been doing it long enough to be considered that. And the RPO, Advanced Recruiter Services, and HireGate. So that's in a nutshell what we're doing.
I love it.
It's a lot.
It is, but it all ties together, right? It's you solve one problem, another one kind of comes up, and you just have to have the solutions that make sense. And I like that the nosy and being, wanting to do it, the volume with quality, right? To your point, how to get better. And not just kind of like the spray and pray approach. And I think that's a big challenge, right? It's a worthy one to tackle. And for those listening, if you don't know it, Christine's going to talk Tuesday, November 4th, 11:40 a.m. PST, so 2:40 p.m. EST, whether you're in person or virtual, right, for EST. And so we got a little bit of kind of why, I think why you're going to pick this topic. But you were saying something online about looking at the ATS, why people look at it all wrong. You mentioned kind of, HireGate, augments over 40 ATSs right now. Like, I don't know if you could like break down kind of like the problem there. Because so many people focus on AI. So I actually love that you're kind of focused not necessarily on that with this conversation, but really just like the ATS, the problems it solves, the problems it's really not solving. Maybe go into like why you picked that topic in particular.
Yeah, I was talking to a good friend of mine who's one of the original Googlers, and she was saying she walked into a conference and she said to meet me there, and she's like, AI, it's just computers, which was interesting, right? Okay,
Yeah.
is it earth-shaking computers? Yeah, but it's still computers.
Yep.
But I think this is an important topic. I'm certainly going to talk about that, but I think it's an important topic too, because I really like to use our voice at People Science to make this really clear. Our whole country, or the world, is in this talent gap. I mean, it's really crippling when you look at our growth, right? From 2013 to 2023, we had 14.7% growth across the board in jobs, which created a larger GDP, right? Same projections now are showing from 2023 to 2033, maybe 4%, maybe. And right now it's sliding. Those projections, by the way, have been right for a very long time, for almost 100 years now. So it's interesting to see that these same factors are saying that. And I think, in the early 2000s, you heard a lot of people talking about, tech's going to cripple us because we don't have the technology. The truth is we've got the innovation, we have the money, and we certainly have the technology. What we don't have is the people to execute. And that's where talent acquisition comes in. And I think one of the biggest crimes in my world is that you don't see TA people at the lead, right? You see anybody in talent acquisition being considered for one of these job openings in the feds or even at the state level? It's just not the case. We've always kind of been the redheaded stepchild of HR. And now all this is coming here and everybody's like, what are we going to do? And I think one of the reasons for that is that we fall behind as a profession, which is almost negligent at this point, because we really we're crippling our own economies, right? We can't advance like we could because of talent. If we get better at talent act, and I can tell you as an RPO, there's no problem you can't solve. You just have to have, and it's not money, right? It's understanding and having the data to say, this is the reality of where we are. How do we plan better so that we know how to get people or create people, right? Because you can't just hire them now. You've got to look internally. You've got to train up. You've got to look seriously at your referrals. You've got to look at your contingent. You can no longer say, I'm going to post. We all know post and pray doesn't work. You can't just source. You've got to combine all 5 factors. So that, to me, that's the new ecosystem. And engaging this ecosystem puts you in charge of talent acquisition. So instead of us every day getting up and saying, I have a rec, let me fill it. We're getting up every day and saying, how am I going to build talent? What is talent? It's a headset change. And there's a lot of people, right, doing this kind of work, but not enough. And we don't voice. And one of the reasons is because our technology is antiquated in talent acquisition. Don't hate me, ATSs, but go ahead. And it's not their fault, right? We are all using this platform called the applicant tracking system. Is there a recruiter out there who says, yeah, all I need is to track my applicants? No. So
Right.
it's like trying to run your entire organization with Excel because it was really good in 1990. Right? We're using applicant tracking systems, expecting them to give us the information. If they can't, they put a bold on, and another bold on, and another bold on, and another bold on. So now you've got Excel with a bunch of AI slapped on it. It doesn't make sense. So when we took HireGate, launched it in 2018, and then said, okay, no, nothing's happening. We can't do anything until we get through the pandemic. Pulled it off the shelf in 21, rewrote it. So it was always a web-based product, or at that point it had been, but enabling it with the ability to use AI tools internally. And this is something you and I were talking about, but people don't talk about. You're like, what's a good sourcing AI tool that I can put on that's going to get me candidates? Well, the truth is your platform is going to measure that. Your platform's going to tell you what's working. And Clark, if I had a dime for how many times we're working with companies that have used half or almost all of their budget on an AI tool that's working like kinda or isn't, and they're stuck in 2 and 3 year contracts. And there's so many people out there looking for them now. And AI is tremendous. We're using some really great tools. Visit our booth because there's our director of recruiting, Lindsay Roundtree, will be there.
Yeah.
Our chief talent officer will be there, and she'll explain some of the things we see because we pilot everyone we can get our hands on. But you're not measuring them, right? You need a platform that does a lot more than applicant tracking. So HireGate augments the ATS so you don't have to pull yours out, and has all these pieces built around it that's going to supply you recruiter production, candidate, has a hefty CRM built into it that allows for
Yeah.
really good marketing and tying the two together, collecting all the data that you need to make smart decisions, and then plan for what your talent pool looks like, not just for this rec and the next rec, for years out. Because when you look at recruiter production, it changes your life.
In what way?
So you know how we'll say a generalist recruiter, which
Yeah.
there's very few people, in my opinion, that are really, really good at being like this whole talent person, right? Because you've got to be, and this is actually on our website, there's a talent assessment that you can take for yourself and for your team. You've got to be great with interfacing with the clients. You've got to understand and be able to digest an AVP. You've got to be able to source for candidates. You've got to be able to engage candidates. You've got to be able to interview candidates. You've got to be process oriented. You've got to be able to streamline work on things. Who's that? Like, who has all of that, and who has all the budget for it, and who even gets that kind of respect, right? It's because it's like saying, I need somebody to fix my bumper, and because you've done transmissions, you're my guy. Well, I'm quoting my brother now.
Yeah.
That's the way he explained it to me. And the expectation is that you as a recruiter will just know all that, when these talent sets are very, very different. Some people have 3 or 4. Some people do have them all, but it's not that common.
Yeah.
So when you measure, when a recruiter is working, right, if it isn't in the ATS, they put it in an Excel spreadsheet, or they put it in a notepad, or they put it in a Google Doc, or at worst, it's in their brain.
Yeah.
Or a notepad. And really, when we were, over the years, as we've been advancing HireGate, it's been like walking the recruiter floor going, why is he using a spreadsheet? Why do we need a notepad? So we started collecting all this data. And once we did, we found out so many things. So first and foremost, the recruiters are always like, I don't want to document everything. Well, you're already doing it or putting it in your brain. As soon as you put it in there, you're able to say, damn, I'm a really, really good sourcer, but I could use some help in engaging. Because I'm collecting 1,000 resumes, but I've only been able to get a return on maybe 100.
Yep.
And in the same market, my counterpart, Clark, he's doing 1,000 and he's engaging 400. So what's Clark doing that I'm not doing?
Yep.
So now their leaders don't hate them, right? And nobody hates Clark because he's doing well. We're like, what's Clark doing? And then vice versa, whatever the skill set is, you can see it because you're doing a comparison. And it's no longer, you're not good at that. You're not a good recruiter. It's more like, oh, do we want to upskill you, or do we want to make you just a sourcer?
Yeah.
Following me? Good luck.
Absolutely.
Just, really equating your job out.
That's been one of the cool things with AI, and I've seen that as a best practice from running this series and talking to all the great speakers and sponsors like yourself, has been AI, you can take like your best practitioners, right? The old adage of your best salesperson makes a terrible sales manager. Well, good news, you don't have to make them a sales manager. Now you can just take what they do, make SOPs around your top performers, right? And then have that kind of as like a training library, like across the board, right? And some people either then catch on to that and figure it out, or to your point, maybe we're asking them to do too much, and they could be really great at like that one thing to the point. And so I think there's ways to kind of allocate that, and it does require taking a step back, right? It's like slowing down to speed up. Everyone's so excited with AI and tech and automation that it's just go, go, go. But the kind of the slow down to speed up mindset, I feel like it's just more effective. And I just see people that do that get more out of it. And to your point, that goes to, is AI slapped onto a software that can handle it or not handle it, versus having AI enabled platforms, right? And I think there's like really like a left path and a right path of people being intentional with AI. They're getting way more out of it. People that are just kind of just, let's just say we're doing something AI related and like figure it out afterwards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that going on. Here's the thing that I'll tell you about AI, because I've been there on this one, right? So now this is a confession. You don't have to be first to market. In fact, don't be first to market. Take a breath. Like you said, take a breath, step back. Every other Tuesday I meet with our chief tech officer, Brian Easley, and he goes over every piece of tech that comes into our company. We encourage everybody to pump up to Brian and his team. And then I challenge them to pilot this stuff, because we have found, legitimately found a tool that saved about $2 million for one client in 1 year. Right. But I have been sitting on these meetings for a really, really long time. And if you had asked me this time last year, I would have said 80% of what we've seen is a fail. Not just AI, that's other tech too, but predominantly AI, right? Yeah. This year, I'm going to say like 70%. So it's getting better, but you can't have the A without the I, right? You have to have the intelligence that it runs on. And we don't have that in Talent Act because we only have the applicant tracking system. Yeah. So you're definitely putting the cart before the horse. But when you can see everything that's being done, then you can see where your real holes are, measure that against where you want to go, just as you would, by the way, in any other department in a business sense, and then decide what do we automate? Because even if you found a tool that at first glance is going to bring you more candidates, if it's costing you more than, the percentage of your budget and you can't do anything else, has it really saved the day? You're being really myopic. You've got to look at that whole picture. And the way you look at the picture is by capturing everything that happens in TA across the board. Yeah. And in your recruiters and your candidates and your applicants. So right now we have an ATS, an applicant tracking system. HireGate's going to give you a recruiter and candidate tracking system. So now you've got an RCATS. We need another acronym so that you can see directly, right across the board with all the factors, and then make smarter decisions.
So if I'm hearing this, I'm head of TA, head of HR, whatever, it's HRO, whatever fancy title someone has listening to this. And I'm hearing you talk, and you guys are doing all these things at a high level. You're thinking about things the right way. I'm resonating, but I was just like, one of the feedback I got in April was like, people are just overwhelmed with all this. Like, how do you help plan the teams that you're working with, like, just not bite off more than they can chew, right? And like, how kind of hands-on are you with them throughout like the transformation process here?
So we're new to market,
yeah,
but we'll never let go of the product and the relationship.
Yeah,
I think, I have the luxury of having, pick up the phone and call Brian, because yesterday I legitimately broke 2 keyboards. I don't know how, but you buy a software, you buy something, and there's really no support for it, right? And having worked with so many different ATSs, you can tell like their service history, which is interesting because some of them got much better over the years, some of them got worse. Yeah. But what good is it if I can't get what I need? Exactly. So as a result, the ATS, that particular developer, is deciding how you work, how we work. That's not necessarily a good idea. Do you think? Because what works over here, and all good, all good intention, but truth out, you're solving a problem for, say, high volume customer service agents, and I need a tool that's going to get me a CFO. So being able to customize, and AI allows us to do that, having embedded, I think I was just telling you, we had a request maybe a year and a half ago from a client that said, our internal executive recruiting team, a big win for them, sorry, would be to have a candidate overview popped up. And they wanted in a specific format, blah, 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 blah. So I brought it to, our IT guy, our head of IT, Brian. And that was on a Thursday night. Saturday at midnight, I get an email saying it's done. We pilot it internally on Monday. It goes live to the recruiters that need that kind of tool, right? Because we're not going to give it to everybody. Because if you don't need it, why turn it on and confuse people? Gave it to our recruiters. It's saving 4 hours a week per recruiter. And by the way, the big question is we haven't laid any of them off. They're doing a lot of cool work, right? Because that's the way I'm taking this. I don't think AI should replace people or boom them out. You got to be able to embrace it and use it. Anyway, my point is that's a lot of time to save a recruiter in candidate overviews. And it's just a button it takes, because everything that you've done, where you've sourced them from, why their decline reasons, what they're interested in instead, all of that is now fully reportable with a push of a button.
You solve this, and this is where you're able to get the time back and be able to allocate it to what you said in the beginning of our recording, which is how do we get people that are in TA kind of higher level positions, and the bigger strategic. Well, you got to free up this time first,
exactly,
right, to get there. And so that's the goal. Is not, to your point, not to lay people off because of this, but okay, they're becoming more dynamic. Like, let's move those dynamic people up the organization, and it's. I don't know. It's kind of a no-brainer. I'm going to do a little bit of a side tangent. Just a story I thought was really cool in this week is in the NFL, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, her dad, Jim Irsay, was the owner for a long, long time, 30, 40 years. It runs in the family. He passed away earlier this year or last year. And she's on the sidelines with a headset on every game. And so everyone immediately was like, oh, she's micromanaging and all that and everything else. But then I listened to her press conference and someone asked her about that. And she's like, well, so much goes on in the headset. If I'm paying GMs and players millions of dollars a year, I have the headset. I'm not making play calls or anything. I'm just learning. I'm learning, fans say, oh, the receiver ran the wrong route. But then I listen. It's like, well, the play call didn't get in time. Or they didn't have the play call was wrong or wasn't communicated in time. It wasn't the player's fault. He ran the route, but it was actually, there's an issue there. So he's like, if I don't know what's going on, I can't understand, learn that language. How am I supposed to help as the owner? How am I going to make informed decisions of who should stay, who should be here, where should I provide support, right? If the play call is not getting out in time, how do we fix that issue, right? To your point. And I've worked in college football, worked in pro football. Like, the amount of just like that I ever heard in that space is almost nil, to be perfectly honest. Like, really looking at it as like a business of processes and what you're talking about. And it was just so interesting to hear. I mean, there's probably a reason that they're 6-1 this year, right?
He's looking for the root cause.
Exactly.
Right?
And there's so little of that, especially in sports. It's just throw money at the problem, right? But it really had that kind of Moneyball effect, but on kind of in football of just, I'm not trying to get in the way or be a Jerry Jones or anything like that, right? In the way, but just like trying to understand and just learn, right? And the decisions from that might not be made for another 6 months, a year, 3 years on some cases from what maybe she learned last Sunday, but she's getting the right data, to your point, right? And it's getting her in the right direction.
The way that you make that even more empowering is you let all the people in the headset play it back.
Yeah.
And the same day, right? So, and that's what we do with HireGate. It's not meant to help. It's not meant to micromanage. It's meant for you, the person in the seat, the recruiter, the sourcer, whoever it may be, understand their own strengths. Yeah. We don't usually have to sit down with recruiters and say, you're not going to hit that number. And one of the things it does is really good predictives, right? So if you know that you're going to be out for 2 days, the system's already telling you you've got to have 40 people screened and 6 interviews set up, or you're not going to make a 45-day hire mark, right? That's what this system will tell you. Then you know that you need to either work a little bit more or share it with a partner, but you can't miss those numbers. Instead of it being, why'd you miss the number?
The micromanagement comes when you don't have the data. Yeah.
You don't miss the number because you can see what's going on and adjust ahead of time, right? And you can also see the root cause. So if it's because you're not getting enough income and you need to ignite more sourcing, like it's that simple, right?
One of the
There's
things
so much
is,
information that recruiters collect to get to the root causes.
yeah,
And once you document it, like decline reasons, one of the biggest things about HireGate and the biggest way that we see the needle move, you can go back to the football analogy, but it's like, why are candidates declining? We went to work with one of the FANGs and like, we need to meet this nut. We need to make 200 hires in this space. And everybody wants to work here. I'm like, yeah, we want to work here. Everybody wants to work here. 58% of the people didn't want to work there. So the plant, we expanded Austin, we expanded San Francisco, we expanded New York, and blew it up that way because you had to be, at the time, you had to be on site. So it's a misnomer. And it always surprises me, right? Like we'll go in saying, no, we know it's this. Yeah, no. You want to learn about the whole business, start asking people why they don't want to work there.
yeah.
Because in a retail sense, they'll tell you. In a Glassdoor sense, it's easy to say Glassdoor is going to tell you what's going on, which is a pay to play, right? So yeah, who knows? You're getting all the negative, but talk to the market, especially in B2C.
Well, talk to the market is great advice for so many things. I deal with a lot of overthinkers and people that can't get out of my own. It's like, go just talk to the market. Stop trying to sell people. And I'm thinking like agency recruiting side. Just stop trying to sell people and just start getting curious and figure out what are their problems. How do they articulate their problems? How do they view their own problems? All that stuff. That'll tell you more about how to impact. And you mentioned HR and TA and different companies and even different people within the same companies, and like one TA person could be focused on sales role, the other on engineering, right? They have different problems and to your point, different strengths and all that. Yet a recruiter will approach that one company the same. But you actually have to figure out how to approach each person and kind of, again, just get really curious. And I have that intel. And I think that curiosity, if you can add that with some of the tools and the data and everything that you can get from that, I mean, it could be a superpower if
Well,
done
I
right.
think for years we've been, and we still are mostly reactive.
Yes.
You get a rec, you go after it. You get a workforce plan. This is how we're going to do it. You meet with LinkedIn, you give them some money. You figure out what you need in a deep. Right? Everything is reactive. We need to change the narrative because what we do is way too important.
Yeah.
Like if you go to bed at night saying, yeah, I help people, right? I love that. You interview somebody, why'd you get in the business? I love to help people. I've been hearing that for I'm not going to tell you how many years. But the truth is, it's a game changer for the world, right? And if nobody fixes this, we are not going to have enough talent. And the only way to do that is with the data and the stuff that's in recruiters' brains.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable to me how these really tough initiatives can be met when you can put math to it. We have a saying at People Science, emotions lie, numbers don't. Verizon asked us Verizon's always over 50% diverse. Diversity is a big issue for them forever. And they came to us and said, we've got this one group, high ticket sales, are like at least $10 million a year in sales. It's like selling to Bank of America. And it's all white men because they have the big book of business. It takes 10 years to gain the business. So they said, HR said, we don't expect you to move the needle on this, but we need you to collect all the data, every name of everybody that you've recruited, that you've reached out to, what the outcome was, why they weren't interested, so we can take it to the board and explain to them why this isn't going to happen. So I put 2 rookies on it. Because when you want real answers, you put rookies on things. Because if anybody, no matter who we put on there, they're going to say, okay, let me just collect the data. 3 weeks later, they come back with a plan. 6 months later, 56% diverse. They went from 38% to 56. But I never knew that. We named that case study. You get what you look for. Because when you start really quantifying, looking for it, you're like, well, if it isn't here. And what they did actually is they found a big pocket outside of Dallas and a pocket out of LA. And they put that cadre together and built the whole team. And these people were not good recruiters. They were newbies, like everybody under a year. One of them just out of college, not even. Interesting.
And that's where you can, you can prove that it could work anywhere.
If you collect the data and you go by the data, you get the real story. Going back to the football analogy, she's gaining the real insights. Well, a lot more too, right? Like she's learning,
she's getting more and more.
Look at all the wins.
That's it. So I love it. Well, it's going to be your first ERE sponsor, which is awesome. Your first year. I know your team's with. Yeah.
Yeah, my team's been there. It's just
Yeah.
I love ERE. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys are the real deal.
Yeah.
I do the spring season. This is the end of the fall season for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And ERE is the one that gets it. I
I love
know,
it.
I'm unabashedly like praising you,
It's,
but the
it's gonna be
biggest
great.
minds in TA come from ERE. You know,
It's
I can't think of anybody that's that good that isn't part of ERE.
I think that's why I've been starting to learn this year as well. So it'll be great. Well, so check everyone's got to check out the booth, and so you can have the Higher Gate booth. You're gonna speak. It's gonna be great. I mean, you know your stuff. I'm learning a lot just from this conversation, and excited to learn more next week and stop by the booth and check out your talk. Any last things? Where's the wisdom that you want to share with me and the listeners?
I think if I had to hit home on anything, it's like what you do in TA is really, really, really important. It's time for us to understand what we're doing, look for the root causes, make the changes. I am also looking forward to learning. You know, that's the whole thing about attending these events. You got to come in open minded and stay there.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we can do. We just have to stop looking at here and start looking a lot higher up.
I love it. Well, I appreciate it. Well, Christine Nichlos, thank you for joining me. Had to get it right, and appreciate it. Well, next Tuesday, November 4th, 11:40 a.m. PST. Also, check out the Higher Gate booth. Thank you for being
Come by.
here. I will look forward to seeing you in San Diego. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff with the podcast. Get a ticket virtually or in person if you're local San Diego. Come on, drive down, come hang out with us. If not, get virtual this time and come in person next time. And until next time, happy hunting.